in Sefer Yetzira EP5 Mishnah Beis. And we've been learning about the creature that we've been serving through our thoughts and through our speech and action. And this creature has a particular nature. This creature is not created by a culture. A culture hijacks the creature. The creature has a nature before the culture. And every culture violates the creature in a different way. It takes some of the actual satisfactions, some of the spiritual food the creature needs, it provides, and on that it makes a living. And then other areas, other sensitivities of the creature get ignored, and they just don't function the way that they're supposed to. And so the ancient cultures were a lot closer to the real nature of the creature. The more recent cultures are all based on how to make a human being practical for what someone else needs. It doesn't have much to do with the real nature of the human being involved. And so all the different jobs that we are doing, no one thought that a person doing that is healthy or it would be good. It's just that in order to make the most amount of money, this is what it required. And so therefore, the person is there doing it. And this is a real abuse of the human nature. This is a source of tremendous frustration. And so in order to get relief from all this frustration, in order to be able to return, in order to be able to appease the soul that's offended when it sees a world that doesn't work properly, because the soul feels like it's part of the owner, and therefore it wants to be proud of its creation. And when it sees that creation is not accurate, the soul loses trust. And so this creature is very sensitive. It's very easy to lose him. It's very easy to cause some type of injury to his nervous system because he has certain expectations. And these expectations are not dependent on culture. Culture will play with these expectations and exploit these expectations, but there are certain expectations that are due to the design of the source. So in order to liberate the soul, Sefer Yetzira comes to teach us the nature of how this creature lives, so that we can understand the real needs that it has. And these needs are spiritual needs. They relate to certain understandings of the heart. That if those understandings are not in the heart is offended and goes into illusion, starts imagining realities in order to protect itself. And when the heart is closed and the soul is covered in illusion, it's very easy to cause people to have beliefs, to cause people to have fears, to cause people to think and place importance on things that really have no value. A human being is easy to manipulate because he doesn't have his heart. His heart is really the thermometer of what's healthy for me and what's not healthy for me. The heart is the only one that can know. The brain will try to memorize facts, but the heart knows directly. And so when the heart believes offensive things, the heart closes, and then that person is open for manipulation. There's no way for him to know. We can tell him things and he will believe, and then he will do, only to later find out that what we told him was completely not accurate. And so, as we learned about this creature, we learned that there are 32 paths that together represent the entire creature. To the extent that we know these 32 paths, we know the nature of creation, because the nature of creation is called Tselem Elohim, the form that we took on in the physical body. All the organs, all the functions, all the parts are all representative of spiritual beings and entities, of angels and forces, divine forces that animate us to be the way that we are. And when we are animated by a certain force, that force is actively present within us, animating us. It's not some theoretical thing that just we know that this is the nature of it. No, this is something that we can learn to experience because this is the way that it is. Every experience that we have involves different angels that are being activated. Angels in the spiritual realms, and they send their vibrations, they send their rays to angels in the physical realms. And then the physical body experiences a thought, experiences a concept, experiences a relationship. This is the miracle, is that a physical piece of matter can experience information. But the experience of information is directed by the angels. If I experience a certain attribute, it means that a certain divine power is shining, a certain angel is activated in me, and there are certain organs that are actually doing the work and presenting, whether it's the chemicals to the blood or the neurotransmitters in the brain or all the different connections that happen within the pulse and the circulation. All of this is actively happening because the angels are activating spiritual information, data, ideas, stories. The physical body digests these stories with physical movement. And so it all goes back to the 32. If we can know the 32 paths, we can know every movement. Who is moving? This will help us wake up from the illusion. This will not allow for anyone to put a spell on us ever again. If we can know the nature of how we operate, then if someone tries to manipulate us, we will immediately see what they're doing to us. We would know. And then our heart will learn to trust us and our heart will open. And then we will know the truth. And this is something that hasn't been possible in the exile. For 2,000 years there hasn't been prophecy because the beliefs have been so offensive to the heart. The heart closed so deeply and strongly that it was almost impossible to open her. And so people would get very little response from the heart after it saw certain things and understood certain things about the nature of life on this planet. Every child is born with an open heart. And then they go through a process where they have to acclimate to the planet and to the environment so that they can know how much are they allowed to love over here, how much are they allowed to feel for others. All this is based on the environment that the baby can already pick up and understand with his own language. How it feels to be next to the people that are feeding him and nursing him and caring for him. Their energy, their vibrations are telling the organs what type of settings to start the life with so that it can know how to interact with the world that it's about to meet. And so these 32 are still alive in the child, and that's why it's like the child knows the whole Torah. What's the whole Torah? 22 letters and 10 nekudas. Everything in the Chamisha Chimshe Torah is to explain the 22 letters and the 10 nekudas. And everything in Nevi'im and Ksuvim is to further explain these 32 paths so that we can have access to ourselves whenever we wake up from the exile, whenever we realize that people have been saying things and they don't themselves understand what they're saying. They're in a type of insanity. They're in a repetition of cultures that keep repeating themselves in people, but the cultures themselves have lost all their meaning. People don't understand the meaning of the words they're saying. And so these 22 letters and these 10 nekudas, they represent the real truth and the nature that we need to know. And then when we go astray and we forget the real meaning, judgment comes, and then we have to admit to our fault. We say, Shamnu Bagadnu Gazalnu, we say it in the order of the alabase. What we're really saying is, we've messed up our speech, we've messed up our understanding of reality. We don't know the real letters. We don't know the real animators of life. We don't understand the attributes we're interacting with. That's why life became unpleasant. That's why life became a burden. And so really what needs to heal is the heart. But as a result of the heart forgetting how to speak for itself, how to know its truth, so then from there come all types of physical offenses, that people violate each other and people hurt each other. It all starts in the heart forgetting the real nature of how life actually happens. And so these 32 paths, he says over here, in Mishnah Beis, Esa spheres blima, there's 10 spheres that have no shape or form. There's no way to grab them. There's no way to really know them, even though we can know about them, even though we can say the word compassion. We don't understand the entity that we invoke when we have compassion. That entity is beyond any type of praise. That entity has saved every person that's been saved on this planet since it ever came to be. And so we can say compassion, but what does it really mean? That's a whole different story. And so therefore, these spheres are blima. Even when you know what you're talking about, you say, wow, I really saw. Something happened, I read something, I saw something, and compassion woke up in me. There were tears in my eyes. But what is compassion? Who is compassion? How does he operate? When does he come? When does he not come? To know compassion, no one can know him because he is a divine entity. He is the reason that we are. He knows himself, but we receive his grace. And so these are live entities that when we wake them up, we gain access to a different aspect of life, a different aspect of ourselves. And so they're called spheres blima. They're spheres that have no definition. V'eser mishtayim osis, 22 letters. They're called osis yisoid, foundation letters, which means the 22 receptacles for life. And so when compassion comes, who does it animate? There are body parts that are getting animated by compassion. And so those are the 22 vessels within which come the spheres, and they animate them and they make them shine. They made them bring out their potential. A mouth was already here for thousands of years, and yet no mouth ever said what I'm saying now, because there's something that's animating it that's unique, that's just here now, that hasn't been here before. And those are attributes. Those are beyond what's actually being said. It's a force that can say many other things, but it has a certain presence, and then it can say. We can taste it in the words. We can taste the attributes in the words. And so the 22 letters are what are lighting up my mouth so that I can say, because these are the vibrations that I'm making with my mouth in order to create content. And so these are the 22 letters, the 22 sounds, but there's also the 22 letters, which are the 22 organs, the elements. What's actually involved? Which angels are involved in order for this movement to take place? And so, for example, there's a heat in me, there's a fire element that's animating my speech. If there wasn't that, then I would be without energy to express. And there's an air quality. There are thoughts. There are different spirits that are combining in order for it to come out. And there's a water quality, there's movement between the organs. There's a desire. There's fulfillment of desire. All these are taking place now. All these angels are moving in order for the movement to take place. And so these are the aleph bays within which the spheres, the attributes, are manifesting their power, their ability to become. And so the 22 letters are separated into 3 different categories. Sholosh Amos v'Sheva Kfulas v'Shtem-Eser Pshutos. Sholosh Amos is 3 mothers, and this is, as we'll see, fire, air, and water. And Sheva Kfilas is 7 duplicate letters, which means that these letters have a range of manifestation. And Shtem-Eser Pshutos is the single letters, and these letters are physical organs, or this is in consciousness, it's physical organs. But if we speak about in space, we're talking about actual planets and stars and astrological signs. So these are absolute expressions that are being animated by deeper expressions, that are being animated by the elements, that are being animated by the spheres, by the attributes. And so this is how the Creator deals with creation every single day, every single moment. This is how the Creator reacts. Through his 32 letters, through these 32 forces that he created, this is how he processes and digests what's happening with humanity and how he reacts to what's taking place on this planet. Through the 32, which are representative of our organs and limbs and the forces that animate us from within. And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu, when he comes to warn the people that they should follow his teachings, he says, I am giving witness in you, the heaven and the earth. And this is the 32 forces that represent the heaven and the earth that we have in our bodies and in our spirits. And so he says, your body and your spirit is my witness. He's testifying that what I'm saying is real, and you must respect what's being said. Because otherwise, the body and the spirit are going to be the source of retribution. From there is going to start the difficulty that's going to return everything to balance. And so these witnesses are still testifying. And if we don't understand accurately, if we worship the wrong force, then the witnesses are there in order to make sure that we remember to return. And so now we'll see from the Perish Rambam, Arrivet, where he says that בדרך הנסיבס ימושך רוח אליהם חיים בנגינס ידיד שאין למד בייס נגינס שהתורה מזגלגלת בהן. And so the Nesivis have the 22 letters and the 10 Nekudas. That's one way of referring to them. Another way of referring to them, a higher way, a deeper way, is the way of the Tamim. The Tamim have 32 Tamim, and these are like parts of songs. They're like the ways of how to sing the words. And in them, there's an even deeper reference to the nature of how the soul becomes and how it dresses up into the 32 different parts. And so on the level of song, we get to a deeper level of the same soul, but we're seeing it from a dimension that's even more delicate than the dimensions of speech. So it says that the music, the part of the Torah, which is the taste of the Torah, it's like what can be said in a long story, where someone would have to read the entire story in order to get to the emotion. We can get him there immediately with a song, without the whole story. We can just take him directly to that feeling with a song. And so the songs are saying the same story. They're bringing you to that same feeling, but from a different path, from a much faster path. You're directly stimulating that being within. And you don't have to go through the meaning of the words in order to get to a certain result. And so this is considered to be like reference to the taste of the Torah. The words is the Torah itself, which is where we're trying to explain what you're supposed to feel about life. But once you understand what the Torah is trying to say about life, then the heart has a certain taste in it. This taste is like the music. This is like the deeper part of the Torah. This is the tamim that's higher than the letters. It's higher than the nekudas. It's higher than the tagim. It's the part that's most representative of source. And here he says, you need to understand that now that he's spelling out for you these 32 paths, it means we're talking about the collective of everything that you can possibly encounter, anywhere. There isn't anywhere you're going to encounter anything that's outside of this rule, which is the 32 paths. The more you know them, the more you are them, the more you wake them up, the more, wherever you find yourself, in whichever world, in whichever predicament, in whichever situation, you're going to be at home, because that is our real nature. That's the source of how we became to be in this form. Pele, the word Pele turns over to be an Aleph. And so the Keser Elyon, which is called a Pele, it's called a wonder because we can't go beyond it. We can't try to explain anything beyond the original will. We don't know who had the will. We don't know how to approach him. All we know is that within the will, he gave definition to his will. And so therefore, to respect his will, we have to listen to the way that he designed his will. And so they're coming from this Pele, and it comes from the Aleph El HaChochma to the second sphere, Ashehi Yud, which is the letter Yud, like we said, that the Yud can become all letters. The Aleph and the Yud together represent the Bina, which is the third sphere. And so like that, it comes out from the Bina, it goes to the children. The Bina is like a mother. She has the attributes. The understanding, the heart that awakens leads to attributes, leads to some type of a reaction. And then through there comes the Malchus. In the Malchus you have the 22 letters. And so through this source that's called Pele, all the 32 come into existence. And that's all that we are going to count as far as categorizing what exists and how it exists, because that's the entire set that we have in our own bodies. So the parts of the body, to know them, but not just to know them physically, not just to know their function, but to know them spiritually, meaning to identify them when they come up in thought and in emotion and in sensation, to know who is acting, who is creating, how is this coming to be, what is the address, what is the source, what was activated spiritually, that this is the result. And so this is the wisdom of the Nevi'im. This is how prophets became to be prophets, because our nature is prophecy, but no one is listening to it. And so he says, like over here, that there's 4 different levels of revelation. The first one is called Nesivas, lanes. These are the Nesivas that we're talking about, the 32 Nesivas. From there came Shemes, that we can create names. From there came Oisius, that we can create symbols for the names that represent the roots, that represent what really exists, which is the 32 lanes, 32 paths. And then together as Sfarim, we create books. In books, we're going to use the letters to create words, to speak about the lanes, but the more we're going away from the original paths that we're talking about, the more it's losing its real meaning, the more we can't really access what's being said. But he says, what's called in the first level, the paths, nikra b'malash achrei shemes. So in the second level, we call it names. We have malash achrei oisius, and then it falls to a low level, we call it letters, which are symbols for the names. In the lowest level is the books that are speaking about names, but they're really speaking about the paths, because there's nothing else you're allowed to speak about. Nothing else is holy other than existence itself. And so he says all these levels, it's all here in order to explain how to get close to the name of the 4 letters. Because the name of the 4 letters is the only one that exists. He is the essence. Now we say, how do we know that it's him? He is what is. Learn that the name means that. It's not a question and answer, it's not a debate. When we say a word, we're pointing at something that really exists. This is what it means. What does the name mean? It means existence. Everything that exists, that's what it means. And so now that it points to everything that exists, now we know that everything that exists is very wise and created the world in great detail in order to know how this will come out so that we can know ourselves from within it. There's something that's being demonstrated about his nature in the way that he runs it, in the way that he operates it. And this is only if we observe the essence, if we observe what's behind the culture, what's behind what the people have done. And so over there is the name that is the only thing that's really alive. If we know it, we know life. If we don't know it, we're imagining life. Because if we don't know it, then we're living in some type of a story. If we haven't sacrificed all the stories for what is, then we're not living with him, we're living in a story. And so all the books, all the letters, all the names, all the paths are revealing. What are they revealing? They're revealing the essence that's not any of those things. All the stories are here to tell us that there's something that is no story. And that's something we have to cling to. And that something is here now without any story. And so that's to reveal the name. We have all this content coming out for generations, and yet the name has lost its meaning, and people are worshiping without knowing the name. People are praying without knowing the name. They don't know how to direct themselves, how to direct their organs to an accurate path that's going to get results. And then it says, everything that's mentioned in the Torah and in the Nevi'im, everything the prophets wrote down, they're here to teach us the wisdom so that we can appease our soul, so that we can show to our soul the compassion of the Creator, so we can convince it, so that it can itself allow itself to become compassionate. And so everything is teaching wisdom. The purpose of wisdom is compassion. The higher the wisdom, the easier the compassion. How great are your works, Hashem, you made them all with wisdom. Everything is filled with wisdom. The earth is filled with things that are selling you. You have your salespeople everywhere. Just observe a flower and you'll be sold on the craftsmanship of the Creator and the wonder and the mystery of how he operates his world. If you look at any animal, you'll be sold on him again. If you look at any human, you'll be sold. If you look at behavior, if you look at trying to understand the big picture, that requires depth, because it's been covered by culture, it's been covered by people who don't care. But if you look at the wonder, if you look at the greatness, if you look at the power to sustain all these galaxies, as if there's no effort, he just does it. We humans are going around and hardly moving things around, and we're huffing and puffing, and he just makes it happen from within, and it all lives and it all exists, and it never wavers. And so they're all here to teach his wisdom. Everything that came out into manifestation is teaching us about something that existed in intelligence that needed to be revealed in order for us to understand. Here he brings already the table for the 12 months. 12 months have the 12 astrological signs, and these are the stars that represent this body part and this time of the year. And so it's all going in cycles. It's like a big clock. And the clock is always producing. Everything that's being produced has the stamp of the clock. The person that's born in that time, the speech that's created in that time, the thoughts that are generated in that time, they all have some type of a stamp that sign was in charge over all the other signs, and therefore his way is more prominent. And so we see different times, different things are more prone to happen. And this is because the time is what causes things to happen. The time is what animates the human body based on the different orders of the signs. And so that goes together with the 12 combinations, the 12 permutations of the 4-letter name. So usually 4 letters can go to 24 permutations, and this name, because it has 2 of the same letter, it can only go to 12 permutations. And these 12 permutations, they're in charge of the 12 months. And so this is how the name is involved in everything that comes out from the original 10 spheres that we're going to learn about, the 10 intelligences that measure life and how it's going to formulate, and then the 3 elements, which are fire, air, and water. And then there are the 7 attributes, which we're going to learn about, that are on the letter side. And then there are the 12 combinations that become different personalities that create life on earth. And these are the 12 zodiac signs. And so all this, and there's one on top of it all that's sitting on his throne. And that's the place of liberation. That's the place of the truth. If we are caught up in the activities of any of these, then we're losing access to the king. That's the one that's sitting on top of it all. He's the one that chose for this to be. And so if we're going down the ladder and we're going into the world of creation and we're losing access to Creator, then we go into the world of slave and we start building frustration. But then if we return, we go up the ladder and we go back to the source where the Creator is, then we awaken compassion and we heal the damage that has been caused to the 32 paths. So this is the purpose of this study, is to be able to recreate our bodies and recreate our souls, to reunite the forces that give life to the human being. And this effort is the ultimate service to the source, because the source needs humans that are accurate, humans that have access to their organs and can report accurately what it means to be human. The devastation on this planet is because humans haven't been accurate. And generation after generation, the vessel to contain the light of life has been deteriorating. And so now we're trying to revive the light so that the vessel can shine. We're trying to revive the soul so that the body can shine. And through learning the real nature of the body and the soul and the relationship between the organs and between the spirit that resides in the organs and the organs, and between all the different parts, spiritual and physical, when we can reunite all of them, then we are available to the divine, so that the divine can return to this planet. As long as our vessel is contaminated with frustration, then we cannot contain the divine. The divine is in a place where there can be no frustration. Frustration means there's something that's not divine, that's still present. And it's resisting reality. It doesn't have that same sweet appetite for reality. It has an offensive posture towards reality. And so when we know these names and we see who has been activated, who's been offended, what's the real nature of what's happening behind the scenes? Why am I being the way that I'm being? Why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking? Why do I want what I think I want? And as we go back closer to the soul can heal. The soul can remember that it is really responsible for what takes place in it. It's something that was obvious as a child and over time becomes more and more difficult to access. And so all the 32 parts have to heal in order for prophecy to take place, which is when together they know truth. Together they are reacting to things in a way that's tuned in to the bigger self, to the real self, to the self that dwells in all selves. And when we will all learn how to do that, when we will all prophesy, then the presence will be in a way that it never was before. And this is going to result in a unification like the world has never seen before. May it happen now.